Anatomy Talks by yours truly, Sophia. Today, I will tackle about all the lessons I've learned in Anatomy Physiology 1, which includes the cells, tissue, glands and membranes, integumentary system, skeletal system, nervous system, and muscular system. Anatomy. The word anatomy is derived from a Greek word anatome, meaning to cut up. It is the study of structures that make up the body and how those structures relate with each other. The study of anatomy includes many subspecialties, which are first, the gross anatomy, the study of structures that can be examined without the aid of a microscope, can be approached from either a systemic or regional perspective, also known as cadaveric anatomy because it studies dead bodies. Under gross anatomy, there is systemic anatomy that studies functional relationships of organs within a system, and regional anatomy studies body part regionally. Both systemic and regional approaches may be used to study gross anatomy. Second is the microscopic anatomy. This requires the use of microscope to study tissues that form the various organs of the body. Next is the cytology. This examines the structural features of cell. Fourth is living anatomy. This deals with the study of live human being. Techniques to study living anatomy includes palpation, percussion, and auscultation. Fifth is clinical anatomy, the application of anatomical knowledge to clinical practice. This branch is a more practical aspect of human anatomy and is of supreme importance for medical professionals. Next is developmental anatomy. This is the study of the structural changes that occur between conception and adulthood. Under developmental anatomy is the embryology. This considers changes from conception to the end of the 8th week of development. Physiology. The word physiology is derived from a Greek word meaning study of nature. It is the study of how the body and its parts work or function. The major goal of physiology is to understand and predict the body's responses to stimuli and to understand how the body maintains condition within a narrow range of values in a constantly changing environment. Under physiology, first is cell physiology. It examines the processes occurring in cells. Next, systematic physiology. It considers the function of organ systems. And lastly, pathology. It is the medical science dealing with all aspects of disease, with an emphasis of the cause and development of abnormal conditions, as well as the structural and functional changes resulting from disease. So the anatomy and physiology are studied together to give students a full appreciation and understanding of human body. There are 6 levels of structural organizations of the body. First is the chemical level, second, cell level, third, tissue level, fourth, organ level, fifth, system level, and lastly, organism level. And there are also 6 essential characteristics in life. First is the organization, second is the metabolism, third is the responsiveness, fourth is the growth, fifth is the development, and lastly, the reproduction. So how many systems does a human body have? To answer it, there are 11 systems, namely integumentary system, skeletal system, muscular system, nervous system, endocrine system, cardiovascular system, lymphatic system, respiratory system, digestive system, urinary system, and reproductive system. Homeostasis. What is homeostasis? It is from the Greek words for same and steady. This refers to any process that living things use to actively maintain fairly stable conditions necessary for survival. Homeostatic mechanisms such as sweating or shivering, normally maintaining body temperature near an average normal value or set point. Most homeostatic mechanisms are governed by the nervous system or the endocrine system. Note that homeostatic mechanisms are not able to maintain body temperature precisely at the set point. Instead, body temperature increases and decreases slightly around the set point, producing a normal range of values. As long as body temperatures remain within this normal range, homeostasis is maintained. Anatomical position are universally accepted as the starting points for positional references of the body. In anatomical position, the subject is standing erect and facing the observer, the feet are together, and the arms are hanging at the sides with the palms facing forward. The four main anatomical positions are supine, prone, right lateral recumbent, and left lateral recumbent. Each position is used in different medical circumstances. First is the supine. Supine position refers to a horizontal position with the face and upper body facing up. In the supine position, the ventral side is up and the dorsal side is down. A number of surgical procedures use the supine position, particularly when access to the thoracic area is needed. Supine is the typical starting point for human dissection as well as for autopsies. Second is the prone. Prone position refers to a horizontal position with the face and upper body facing down. In the prone position, the dorsal side is up and the ventral side is down. A number of surgical procedures use the prone position. It is most commonly used for surgeries requiring access to the spine. The prone position also helps to increase oxygenation in patients with respiratory diseases. Third is the right lateral recumbent. The word lateral means to the side, while recumbent means lying down. In the right lateral recumbent position, the individual is lying on the right side. The position makes it easier to access a patient's left side. Fourth is the left lateral recumbent. The left lateral recumbent position is the opposite of the right lateral recumbent position. In this position, the individual is lying on their left side. This position makes it easier to access a patient's right side. There are other common positions such as Trendelenburg and Fowler's position. Fowler's position has a person sitting up, while Trendelenburg position has the person in a supine position with the head about 30 degrees lower than the feet. Fowler's position is named after George Fowler, who originally used the position as a way to help with peritonitis. This is the inflammation of the membrane lining of the abdominal wall. Trendelenburg position is named after Friedrich Trendelenburg and is often used in surgery and to improve venous blood return to the heart. Relative directional terms. Standardized terms of reference are used when anatomists describe the location of the body part. Relative means the location of one part of the body is always described in relation to another part of your body. Directional terms. Superior, toward the head. The leg is superior to the foot. Inferior, toward the feet. The foot is inferior to the leg. Anterior, toward the front part of the body. The nose is anterior to the ears. Posterior, towards the back of the body. The ears are posterior to the nose. Medial, towards the midline of the body. The nose is medial to the eyes. Lateral, away from the midline of the body. The eyes are lateral to the nose. Proximal, towards the trunk of the body or the attached end of a limb. The shoulder is proximal to the wrist. Distal, away from the trunk of the body or the attached end of a limb. The wrist is distal to the forearm. Superficial, mirror the surface of the body. The ribs are superficial to the heart. Deep, farther from the surface of the body. The heart is deeper than the ribs. Left and right. It refers to the right and left of the patient. Therefore, the right of the body is on the observer's left and the left of the body is on the observer's right. Body planes and sections. Body planes are imaginary surfaces or planes, lines that divide the body into sections. This helps for further identification of specific areas. First is sagittal plane. This divides the body into right and left half. Under sagittal plane, mid-sagittal plane, this divides body into equal left and right halves. And parasagittal plane, this divides body into an equal left and right. Second, frontal plane. This divides the body into asymmetrical anterior and posterior sections. Third, transverse plane. Divides the body into upper and lower body section. And fourth, oblique plane. Divides the body obliquely into upper and lower section. Let's proceed with cell. Cell is the basic structural and functional unit of living organisms. The simplest organisms consist of single cells, whereas humans are composed of multiple cells. Cells have many characteristics in common. However, most cells are also specialized to perform specific functions. The human body is made up of many populations of specialized cells. So to summary it up, cells make up living things and carry out activities that keep a living thing alive. So functions of cells, there are 4 functions of cells, which are cell metabolism and energy use, second, synthesis of molecules, third, communication, and lastly, reproduction and inheritance. So the smallest cell in human body is the sperm cell, largest cell is the ovum cell, and the longest cell is the nerve cell. If we study a cell under a microscope, we would come across 3 features in almost every cell: plasma membrane, nucleus, and cytoplasm. All activities inside the cell and interactions of the cell with its environment are possible due to these features. The nucleus is an organelle containing the cell's genetic material. The living material surrounding the nucleus is called cytoplasm, and it contains many types of organelles. The cytoplasm is enclosed by the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. The cell membrane or the plasma membrane is the outermost component of a cell. The cell membrane encloses the cytoplasm and forms the boundary between material inside the cell and material outside it. Next is nucleus. It is dense spherical body located near the center of the cell. It is well developed in plant and animal cells. It has doubled layer covering called nuclear membrane. Cell structure consists of various components, each with its importance and function. First is the cell membrane or the plasma membrane. It acts as a protective barrier, controlling the passage of substances in and out of the cell. Its function is to regulate the exchange of ions, nutrients, and waste products. It also plays a role in cell recognition and signaling. Second is cytoplasm. It provides a medium for cellular processes and contains organelles. Its function is to serve as the site for many biochemical reactions and the movement of organelles within the cell. Third, nucleus. It is the house of the cell's genetic material or the DNA. Its function is to control gene expressions and directs cellular activities. Fourth, endoplasmic reticulum. Plays a vital role in protein synthesis and lipid metabolism. The function of rough endoplasmic reticulum is studied with ribosomes and involved in protein production, while smooth endoplasmic reticulum is involved in lipid synthesis and detoxification. Golgi complex. It processes, modifies, and packages proteins and lipids for transport, sorts and directs these molecules to their appropriate destinations within or outside the cell. Seventh, mitochondria. It is the powerhouse of the cell generating ATP or the energy. Its function is to convert energy from nutrients into ATP through cellular respiration. Seventh, rysosomes. It is essential for protein synthesis. Its function is to translate the genetic code into amino acids to form proteins. 8. Lysosomes. It contains enzymes for breaking down waste materials and cellular debris. Its function is to participate in cellular digestion and recycling. And lastly, the nuclear membrane. It separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm. Its function is to regulate the passage of molecules between the nucleus and the cytoplasm. Let's now proceed with cell membrane transport. First is the passive transport. It is the process by which molecules move across the cell membrane without the ATP. It occurs due to the natural kinetic energy of particles. There are 2 types of passive transport. First is the simple diffusion, the movement of small nonpolar molecules directly through the lipid. Facilitated diffusion is the movement of larger or polar molecules through membrane protein channels or carriers. The importance of passive transport is this is essential for the uptake of nutrients, exchange of gases, and maintaining ion gradients within cells. Second is the active transport. It is the process of moving molecules against their concentration gradient, from an area of lower concentration to an area of higher concentration. It requires energy in the form of ATP. There are two types of active transport. First is the primary active transport, directly use of energy to move molecules via transmembrane pumps. And secondary active transport, it utilizes the energy created by primary active transport to move other substances against their gradients. The importance of active transport is crucial for maintaining specific ion concentrations such as sodium and potassium across the cell membrane, and this involves in nutrient absorption and nerve impulse conduction. Third is endocytosis. It is the process of bringing materials into the cell by engulfing them with the cell membrane. It is an energy-consuming process. And lastly, exocytosis. Exocytosis is the process of expelling materials from the cell. It involves the fusion of vesicles containing cellular products with the cell membrane, releasing their contents outside. The importance of endocytosis is essential for nutrient uptake, immune response, and regulation of cell signaling, while the importance of exocytosis is crucial for the secretion of hormones, neurotransmitters, enzymes, and waste materials from the cell. These cellular transport processes are vital for maintaining the integrity and functionality of cells by regulating the movement of substances into and out of the cell. They are essential for various physiological processes such as nutrient uptake, waste removal, signal transduction, and maintaining ion gradients. Let's proceed with tissue, glands, and membranes. Histology is the study of tissue structure. Knowledge of tissue structure and function is important in understanding how individual cells are organized to form tissues and how tissues are organized to form organs, organ systems, and the complete organism. Changes in tissue can result in development, growth, aging, trauma, or disease. For example, skeletal muscles are enlarged because skeletal muscle cells increase in size in response to exercise. Cells are arranged in tissues that provide specific functions of the body. Therefore, a tissue is a group of specialized cells and the extracellular substances surrounding them. The cells of a particular tissue share a common structure and function. So there are four types of tissue. First is the epithelial, second is the connective, third is the muscle, and fourth is the nervous. Epithelial tissue is widespread throughout the body, cover organs, and lines body surfaces like the skin. Epithelial tissues are anchored to a basement membrane made up of tightly packed cells containing little intercellular material, generally lack blood vessels, and are replaced frequently. So there are two ways to name the epithelial cells. First is the shape and second is the layer. First type of epithelial cells is the simple squamous epithelium. It is made up of a single layer of thin, flattened cells. Because it is suited for diffusion, it functions in the exchange of gases in the lungs and lines blood and lymph vessels as well as body cavities. Second is a simple cuboidal epithelium. It consists of a single layer of cube-shaped cells with centrally located nuclei. Second is the simple cuboidal epithelium. It consists of a single layer of cube-shaped cells with centrally located nuclei. It functions in secretion and absorption in the kidneys and in secretion in glands. Third is the simple columnar epithelium. It is made up of a row of elongated cells whose nuclei are all located near the basement membrane. It may be ciliated. It lines the uterus, stomach, and intestines where it protects underlying tissues, secretes digestive fluids, and absorbs nutrients. In the intestine, these cells possess microvilli that increase the surface area available for absorption. Fourth is the pseudostratified columnar epithelium. These cells appear layered due to the varying positions of their nuclei within the row of cells, but are not truly layered. Fifth is the stratified squamous epithelium. This type of tissue is made up of layers of flattened cells that are designed to protect underlying layers. It makes up the outer layer of the skin and lines the mouth, throat, vagina, and anal canal. In the skin, outer layers of cells undergo keratinization. However, this process does not occur where tissues remain moist in the throat, vagina, or anal canal. 6 is the stratified cuboidal epithelium. This tissue consists of 2 to 3 layers of cuboidal cells lining a lumen of the mammary glands, sweat glands, salivary glands, and pancreas. Several layers of cells provide greater protection than one single layer. 7th, the stratified columnar epithelium. This tissue consists of several layers of cells and is found in the vas deferens, part of the male urethra, and parts of the pharynx. 8. Transitional epithelium. Transitional epithelium is designed to distend and return to its normal size, as it does in the lining of the urinary bladder. This design provides distensibility and keeps urine from diffusing back into the internal cavity. Second type of tissue is the connective tissues. It binds the ligament and tendons, support, protect, serves as frameworks, fill spaces, store fat, produce blood cells, protect against infection, and repair tissue damage. Unlike epithelial tissues, connective tissues have abundant matrix or intercellular material throughout and have good blood supplies. This includes several types of fibrous tissue that vary only in their density and cellularity, as well as the more specialized and recognizable variants: bone, ligaments, tendons, cartilage, and adipose tissue. Third is the muscle tissues. This can contract and consist of 3 major types. First type is the skeletal muscle tissue. This is attached to bone and can be controlled by conscious effort or voluntarily. The cells are long and cylindrical, striated, have many nuclei, and contract from nervous impulse. Second is the smooth muscle tissue. This lacks striations and consists of spindle-shaped cells. This involuntary muscle is found in the walls of internal organs and in the digestive tract, blood vessels, and urinary bladder. And the third type of muscle tissue is the cardiac muscle tissue. This is found only in the heart and consists of branching fibers that are connected to each other with intercalated disc. This involuntary muscle has a single nucleus in each cell but appears straightened. Let's proceed to the first system, which is the integumentary system. The integumentary system consists of the skin and its derivatives or accessory structures such as hair, glands, and nails. This is one of the most familiar systems of the body to everyone because it covers the outside of the body and is easily observed. So the functions of the skin are first protection, second temperature regulation, third is excretion, fourth is synthesis, and lastly sensory reception. So the skin is the largest organ of the body and is the exterior covering of the body. It weighs more than 6 pounds in the average adult and covers more than 3,000 square inches or 2 by 2 with average thickness of 2 mm. It is supplied with blood vessels and nerves. Skin has 3 main parts. First is the epidermis, followed by dermis and hypodermis. Epidermis is the outer layer of the skin that is made up of stratified squamous epithelium. It has no blood supply. Epidermis contains 4 to 5 strata, which are first the corneum, lucidium, granulosum, spinosum, and basal. Second is the dermis or the true skin. A strong, flexible, connective tissue meshwork of collagen, reticular, and elastic fibers. Most part of the skin is composed of dermis. The dermis is composed of dense collagenous connective tissue containing fibroblasts, adipocytes, and macrophages. It is important for surgeons to be aware of cleavage lines. An incision made across the cleavage lines is likely to gap and produce considerable scar tissue, but an incision made parallel with the lines tends to gap less and produce less scar tissue. Dermis contains papillary and reticular layers. Papillary layer is next to the stratum basal of the epidermis. It contains loose connective tissue with abundance of collagenous fibers. It also contains loose capillaries that nourish the epidermis, while the reticular layer is next to the papillary layer. It is made up of dense connective tissue with cores of collagenous fiber bundles that crisscross to form a stroma of elastic network. In this reticular layer, many blood and lymphatic vessels, nerves, fat cell, sebaceous glands, and hair roots are embedded. Lastly is the hypodermis. It is the innermost layer of the skin located under the dermis and the epidermis. The thickness of the hypodermis varies in different regions of the body and can vary considerably between different people. The hypodermis layer also provides shaping and contouring. For those assigned male at birth, the hypodermis is thick in the abdomen and shoulder, whereas the hypodermis for those assigned female at birth is generally thickest in the hips, thighs, and buttocks. Function of epidermis are fat and energy storage, second, protecting the body, third, regulating body temperature, and fourth, attaching the skin to muscle and bone. So the skin color, the factors that determine skin color include pigments in the skin, blood circulating through the skin that is reflected in the epidermis, and the thickness of the stratum corneum. Melanin is produced by melanocytes, an irregularly shaped cells with many long processes that extend between the epithelial cells of the deep part of the epidermis. Melanin, meaning black, is the group of pigments primarily responsible for skin, hair, and eye color. Most melanin molecules are brown to black pigments, but some are yellowish or reddish. Melanin provides protection against ultraviolet light from the sun. It is the natural sunscreen of the body. Although many genes are responsible for skin color, a single mutation can prevent the production of melanin. For example, is the albinism. It is a recessive genetic trait that causes a deficiency or an absence of melanin. Albinos have fair skin, white hair, and unpigmented irises of their eyes. Ehlers-Danlos syndrome is a group of inherited disorders that affect your connective tissues, primarily your skin, joints, and blood vessels walls. Connective tissue is a complex mixture of proteins and other substances that provide strength and elasticity to the underlying structures in your body. People who have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome usually have overly flexible joints and stretchy, fragile skin. This can become a problem if you have a wound that requires stitches, because the skin often isn't strong enough to hold them. Congenital melanocytic nevus causes patches of brown or black skin on different parts of the body. Although it is usually harmless, sometimes there is a risk of cancer, so as a precaution, surgery needs to be performed. Vitiligo. It is a condition where white patches are developed all over the skin due to a lack of melanin or the skin pigment. The skin that is very sensitive to scratches. Any little scratch can cause raised red lines that last for a long period of time and are hard to get rid of it. Cyanosis is the bluish discoloration of one's skin, lips, nail beds, tongue, mucous membranes, and this is the result of an augmented concentration of lessened hemoglobin in the circulation. Jaundice is a condition in which the skin, whites of the eye, and mucous membranes turn yellow because of high level of bilirubin, a yellow-orange bile pigment. Jaundice has many causes, including hepatitis, gallstones, and tumors. In adults, jaundice usually doesn't need to be treated. Birthmarks are congenital. They are present at birth. Congenital disorders of the blood vessels in the dermis. Let's proceed with the skeletal system. The word skeleton is a Greek word meaning dried up. But the skeleton is far from being dry and non-living. Rather, the skeletal system consists of dynamic living tissues that are able to grow, detect pain stimuli, adapt to stress, and undergo repair after injury. It is strong yet light, adapted for its function of body protection and motion. The skeletal system includes bones, cartilages, joints, and ligaments. The joint gives the body flexibility and allow movements to occur. But from structural point of view, the human skeletal system consists of only two main types of connective tissues, which are bones and cartilages. So the functions of the skeletal system is first, support, second, protection, third, movement, fourth, storage, and fifth, blood cell formation. There are 5 types of bones. First is the long bone. It is called long as its length is greater than its width. The most obvious long bones are in the arm and leg. They act as levers that pull by contraction of muscles. Second type of bone is short bones. It is about equal in length, width, and thickness, which are shaped with regular orientation. They occur in the wrist and ankle. Third is flat bones. Thin or curved, more often they are flat. This includes ribs, scapulae, sternum, and bone of cranium. Fourth is irregular bones. They do not fit neatly into any other category. Examples are the vertebral, facial, and hip bone. Fifth is the sesamoid. Small bones embedded within certain tendons. The fibrous cord that connects muscle to bones. And lastly is the accessory bones, commonly found in the feet. They usually occur in the developing bone and do not fuse completely. Structures of a long bone. Diaphysis. It is the tubular shaft, hollow, cylindrical with walls of compact bone tissue. The center of the cylinder is the medullary cavity, which is filled with marrow. Epiphysis. It is roughly spherical end of the bone. It is wider than the shaft. Flat and irregular bones of the trunk and leaves have many epiphyses, and the long bones of the finger and toe have only one epiphysis. Lastly, metaphysis. It is the part separating diaphysis from epiphysis. It is made up of epiphyseal plate and adjacent bony tuberculae of cancellous bone tissue. Epiphyseal plate is a thick plate of hyaline cartilage, which provides the framework of synthesis of the cancellous bone tissue within metaphysis. The medullary cavity running through the length of the diaphysis contains yellow bone marrow, while the porous lattice work of the spongy epiphysis is filled with red bone marrow. The red marrow, also known as myeloid tissue. Endostom is the lining of the medullary cavity of compact bone tissue and covering the trabeculae of spongy bone tissue. Histology of the bone, cells, and tissues. The periosteum and endostom contains osteoblasts, which are the bone-forming cells, which function in the formation of bone as well as in the repair and remodeling of bone. When osteoblasts become surrounded by matrix, they are referred to as osteocytes, which are the bone cells. Osteoclast is the bone-destroying cells presented and contribute to bone repair and remodeling by removing existing bone, called bone reabsorption. Bone is formed in thin sheets of extracellular matrix called lamellae or plates, with osteocytes located between the lamellae within spaces called lacunae or the hollows. Cell processes extend from the osteocytes across the extracellular matrix of the lamellae within tiny canals called canaliculi or the little canal. Bone contains 5 types of cells. First is the osteogenic cells. These are small spindle-shaped cells. They found mostly in the deepest layer of periosteum and endostom. They have high mitotic potential and can be transformed into bone-forming cells. Second, osteoblast. Found in the growing portion of bone including periosteum. They can synthesize and secrete unmineralized ground substance, act as pump cell to move calcium and phosphate in and out of the bone tissue. Third is the osteocytes, the main cell of fully developed bones. They have a cell body that occupies a lacunae. Osteocytes are derived from osteoblasts. Osteocytes, together with the osteoclast, they play an important role of homeostasis by helping to release calcium. Fourth is osteoclast, multinuclear giant cell, which are found where bone is reabsorbed during its normal growth. Osteoclasts are derived from white blood cells called monocytes. And lastly, the bone lining cells. It is found on the surface of most bones in the adult skeleton. They are believed to be derived from osteoblasts that ceases their physiological activity. Bone tissue, found throughout the skeleton, is divided into two major types. First is the compact bone. This is the most solid matrix and cells. Second is the spongy bone. It consists of a lacy network of bone with many small marrow-filled spaces. So compact bone is also known as cortical bone, surrounds spongy bone. They are heavy, tough, and compact in nature, while spongy bone is also called as cancellous or trabecular bone. It is found in the long bones and it is surrounded by compact bone. The adult human skeleton have 206 named bones that are grouped into two principal parts. This is the axial and the appendicular skeleton. The appendicular skeleton consists bones of the body out of the axial group. These are appendages, upper and lower extremities, and bones of girdles are grouped under appendicular skeleton, while the axial skeleton consists of bones that lies around the axis. Let's proceed with the muscular system. The muscular system is a complex network of muscles throughout the body that enables movement, supports bodily structures, and plays a fundamental role in various physiological functions. It is responsible for generating force, allowing for voluntary and involuntary movements, maintaining posture, and facilitating functions such as circulation, digestion, and respiration. Muscles are composed of muscle fibers that contract and relax, converting chemical energy into mechanical work. This system is essential for the mobility and functionality of the human body. Muscles are composed of bundles of muscle fibers. Each muscle fiber contains myofibrils, which are the contractile units. Sarcomeres, the repeating units within myofibrils, are responsible for muscle contraction and relaxation. Muscles have origins. Origins is the attachment points where they are relatively stable. And muscles have insertions. Insertions is the attachment points where they move when the muscle contracts. Muscle action is determined by the movement of the insertion toward the origin when the muscle contracts. Muscles are often categorized into groups based on their location and function, such as the quadriceps, biceps, or pectoral muscles. Functions of muscular system. First is the movement of the body, second, maintenance of posture, third, respiration, fourth, production of body heat, fifth, communication, sixth, constriction of organs and vessels, and lastly, contraction of the heart. Physiological characteristics of muscle tissue. First is the irritability. It is the ability to respond to a certain stimuli by producing electrical signals called action potential. Second, contractility. This is the ability of muscle tissue to shorten and thicken. Third, extensibility. The muscle can be extended without damaging the tissue. Fourth, elasticity. The muscle tissue tends to return to its original shape after contraction or extension. There are three types of muscles, and first is skeletal muscles. These are voluntary muscles attached to bones by tendons. They are responsible for movement, posture, and joint stability. Second, smooth muscles, found in the walls of internal organs and blood vessels. Smooth muscles are involuntary and involve in functions like digestion, blood vessel constriction, and respiratory control. And lastly, cardiac muscle. Cardiac muscle is specific to the heart and responsible for the contraction of the heart, and responsible for the contraction of the heart chambers to pump blood. It is involuntary and striated. Let's now proceed to the last part, which is the nervous system. The nervous system is a complex network of cells, tissues, and organs that enables communication and coordination within the human body. It is responsible for processing information, controlling bodily functions, and allowing an organism to interact with its environment. The nervous system can be divided into two main components, the central nervous system and the peripheral nervous system. The central nervous system consists of the brain and spinal cord. The brain is the control center of all bodily functions, processing sensory information, and initiating responses. It is divided into regions responsible for different functions. The spinal cord is a long, tubular structure that extends from the base of the brain down the spinal column. It serves as a conduit for nerve signals between the brain and the rest of the body. peripheral nervous system includes all the nervous system outside the central nervous system. It is further divided into the somatic nervous system and autonomic nervous system. Somatic nervous system controls voluntary movements and sensory input from the external environment. It includes motor neurons that control skeletal muscles, while autonomic nervous system regulates involuntary functions such as heart rate, digestion, and respiratory rate. Autonomic nervous system is divided into the sympathetic and parasympathetic branches, which have opposing effects on many bodily functions. Nervous tissue is made up of neurons and the neuroglia. Neurons are the cells that receive and transmit electrical signals, while neuroglia or the glial cells support cells of CNS and PNS. The brain is a complex organ with various major parts, each responsible for different functions. Here are the main regions or part of the brain. First is the cerebrum. The cerebrum is the largest and most prominent part of the body, occupying the uppermost portion. It is divided into two hemispheres, the left and the right, which are responsible for higher cognitive functions, including thinking, reasoning, language, and conscious awareness. The cerebrum also contains the sensory and motor regions that control voluntary movements and receive sensory input. Next is the cerebral cortex. The cerebral cortex is the outermost layer of the cerebrum. It is highly folded, which increases its surface area and allows for more complex processing. Different regions of the cerebral cortex are responsible for specific functions, such as the frontal lobe for decision-making and the occipital lobe for visual processing. Third is the basal ganglia. The basal ganglia are a group of structures located deep within the cerebrum. They play a role in coordinating voluntary movements as well as cognitive and emotional functions. Fourth, limbic system. The limbic system is a collection of structures involving emotions, memory, and behavior. It includes the amygdala, hippocampus, and parts of the thalamus and hypothalamus. Fifth, thalamus. The thalamus acts as a relay station for sensory information, directing it to the appropriate areas in the cerebral cortex. Next, hypothalamus. The hypothalamus regulates many essential functions, including body temperature, hunger, thirst, and the release of hormones from the pituitary gland. Next is the brainstem. The brainstem is located at the base of the brain and connects the brain to the spinal cord. It consists of three main parts: the medulla oblongata, pons, and the midbrain. The brainstem controls vital functions such as breathing, heart rate, and basic reflexes like swallowing and coughing. Next is the cerebellum. The cerebellum is located at the back of the brain beneath the cerebrum. It is essential for coordinating movement, balance, and posture. And lastly, spinal cord. The spinal cord is a crucial extension of the central nervous system. It carries sensory information from the body to the brain and motor commands from the brain to the body. These major parts of the brain work together to regulate and coordinate various physiological and cognitive functions. The brain is a highly intricate and integrated organ, and understanding its structure and function is essential for comprehending human behavior, consciousness, and health. Cranial nerves have 12 nerves, namely olfactory nerve, sense of smell; optic nerve, ability to see; oculomotor nerve, ability to blink your eye; trochlear nerve, ability to move your eyes up and down, back and forth; trigeminal nerve, sensations in your face and cheek, taste and jaw movements; abducens nerve, ability to move your eyes; facial nerve, facial expressions and sense of taste; auditory, sense of hearing and balance; glossopharyngeal nerve, ability to taste and swallow; vagus nerve, digestion and heart rate; accessory nerve, shoulder and neck muscle movement; and lastly, hypoglossal nerve, ability to move your tongue. General senses refer to the broad category of sensory modalities that are spread throughout the body and provide information about the external and internal environment. These senses are crucial for perceiving various stimuli and responding to them. The 5 senses are the fundamental ways in which humans perceive and interact with the world. First, the sense of sight. Vision is the ability to perceive and interpret light. The eyes contain photoreceptor cells that detect different wavelengths of light. allowing us to see colors, shapes, and the spatial arrangement of objects. Second, sense of hearing. Hearing is the sense of perceiving sound vibrations in the environment. The ears contain structures that transmit these vibrations to the brain, where they are processed into the perception of sound. Third, sense of taste. Taste is the ability to detect different chemical compounds in food and drink. Taste buds on the tongue and other parts of the mouth are responsible for detecting and identifying sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and savory flavors. Fourth, smell is the sense of detecting and identifying odors in the environment. Specialized olfactory receptors in the nose can distinguish a wide range of scents, helping us recognize different substances and environmental cues. And lastly, sense of touch. Touch is the sense of perceiving pressure, temperature, and texture. It is distributed throughout the skin and other tissues that allows us to feel physical sensations such as warmth, pain, and pressure. These five senses collectively provide humans with a rich and complex understanding of their surroundings. They are essential for navigation, communication, safety, and enjoyment of the world. And this video has come to an end. This is all what I've learned in Anatomy and Physiology 1. I am looking forward in Anatomy and Physiology 2 to tackle about the remaining organ systems such as reproductive system, urinary system, lymphatic system, and many more. And I would also like to thank Sir Raul para sa pagtsatsaga niyang ituloy yung Anatomy and Physiology 1 sa aming Block A sa isang buong buwan na magkakasama kami. I would also like to thank ang kanyang never-ending patience sa pagsagot ng mga tanong namin or inquiries namin or concerns namin about certain activities or anything na may concern ng mga classmates ko. Sana po kayo pa rin yung teacher namin sa Anatomy and Physiology